Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the Bitcoin. The government has been
Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about why I believe that a major correction could be starting very soon on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been displaying a great number of signs of weakness over the last few days, and there is a very real possibility that Bitcoin is going to end up having a large capitulation event here relatively soon. We just recorded a video on this, and I'm about to go ahead and break down for you exactly why we are going to see most likely a corrective movement on Bitcoin. Now, of course, we have to wait and see what Bitcoin's going to do, but there are a great number of reasons to believe that that correction could be taking place very soon. As you can see, we have this uptrending level of support here on Bitcoin, and this might not seem important, but it actually is, because this represents what is known as a failed inverse head and shoulders pattern setup. As you can see, we were trying to build an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. It was relatively good. It's not perfect. It's not the cleanest inverse head and shoulders pattern ever, but it was relatively good. And even if we look down here on our volume, the volume appeared to be, it's not perfect, but again, it's somewhat favoring the concept of it being an inverse head and shoulders pattern. But instead of Bitcoin actually forming that inverse head and shoulders, what Bitcoin instead did is it created an overside, underside test here on this uptrending level of support, which meant that it broke. You see, and so what we are looking at right now is a very real possibility that if Bitcoin doesn't bounce soon, and I'm talking very soon, then what we're going to be seeing Bitcoin doing is setting a series of lower highs and lower lows, here on the hourly chart. And if we end up doing that, it's going to be very difficult to get Bitcoin into this position where it looks like it's going to rally. So that is definitely not the bullish news that a lot of you guys might have been hoping for. But honestly, more importantly than that, did not mean to do that. Let's get our indicators back. What is more important than that is the fact that down here on the weekly chart, Bitcoin is in the process of breaking through the 200 weekly exponential moving average. So we're going to go ahead and discuss this, because if Bitcoin is not able to get back up above the 200 weekly exponential moving average, then that most likely means that Bitcoin is going to be moving into the middle to high $50,000 range relatively soon. If Bitcoin's able to get a strong bounce here and close the weekly candlestick above the 200 weekly, then fine. But the weekly close is coming in just a few days. So if Bitcoin doesn't manage to get up above about $69,000, then that's where most likely we have seen a confirmed breakout beneath the previous all-time high, which is convergent support between the 200 weekly exponential moving average and, of course, that level. Right now, Bitcoin is not only beneath it, Bitcoin has actually managed to hit its head on it. So, again, not the bullish look that many of you might be looking for. Again, here's the previous all-time high. Overside, underside test. It's not as clean, but it is there. There's your bounce off of that support. Looks good, looks promising, and fails. There's the attempted rally, and there's the failure. You can see the failure has been significantly more powerful even than the bounce. All right, so let's read a little bit of chat, and then we are going to dive right on into it. We've got a lot to cover today. Appreciate all of you for being here. Miguel Rangel is in chat. Custom XOO is in chat, said, morning, Jeb. Good morning to you. Sean O'Brien is in chat, said, right now. Right now, right now. There you go. Crypto Surge is in chat, said, smash the likes and subscribe. Crypto Surge also coming in with the right now, right now. There you go. Good morning, Jeb. We have not gotten a 3-day death cross yet. Thinking we have a bunch lower to go here, buddy. That is exactly what we have been discussing. 3 daily death cross. Let's go ahead and show you what he's talking about here. Bring out the 50. Remove the 200. Let's just make this real easy to see. So the reason that he's mentioning that is that the death crosses on the 3 daily chart, they typically mark They typically mark about halfway through the bear market. So I actually really like that point. We'll continue reading chat here in just a second. But when you see the 50 crossing below the 200 on the 3-daily chart, generally speaking, that means that you're not, it's certainly not a predictive indicator, but it also means that you're probably not at the bottom. So here you could see that when that death cross did occur, Bitcoin still had 60% more to drop. I'm sorry, actually, we measured that wrong. Bitcoin still had 50% more to drop. Similarly, over here, when the death cross took place on the 3-daily chart, precipitated the break below $6,000, and that led to a very large drop here, about a 50% drop. And then over here, as you can see, the death cross actually happened significantly earlier in the market, and we would end up seeing this 44% drop following. And this is interesting timing because, as you can see, that death cross is about to take place, I'm going to say probably by the end of February. And what you'll notice is that we've been tracking very closely with the previous bear market. And essentially where we are is right here, right? It's tempting, and a lot of people want to think we're down here, and then we might have one final flush out. But actually, based on our analysis, that's not the case. Based on our analysis, this drop back down to $25,000 is equivalent to our current drop back down towards $60,000, which means that this bounce and this crash could still be to come. If Bitcoin were to follow through on the exact same movement, then we would see a further 31% drawdown from $60,000 over just the next few weeks as you see that 3-daily chart cross coming into play. That would be a wave 3, not even a wave 4, but a wave 3 correction down to $41,000, followed by a wave 5 correction down into the $30,000 range. So I'm not necessarily convinced that that's what we're going to see happen. I don't think that we're going to see the bear market bottom out at $30,000, but we have to be prepared for that possibility. You genuinely need to be prepared for that possibility. If you're not already prepared for that possibility, well, you need to. Bottom line. So we're going to come back to all of that in just a second, but I want to continue reading chat here for a second. Imrected in chat saying that is absolutely a great point. Dude, you got to stop streaming so close to the opening bell. That's why we're streaming right here, is because we want to catch the opening bell. It's very interesting to see that market volatility taking place on, let's go ahead and give me 1 second here. We're having a bit of a technical difficulty here. That's why we stream at this point in time, because honestly, streaming at this point in time is very interesting because that's when we have a lot of volatility. So why not catch the volatility if we are able to? Sorry, my stream deck's giving me a bit of trouble. T. Smith in chat said, Jeb in the building, good to see you. Queen Finsov's in chat, good to see you. Dress for success, thank you, appreciate it. Rocket Race Official asked if she's really a queen. That's a question. We got to know. We got to know. We are going down. We are going down. We are going down. A lot of people very excited about the idea of we are going down. Jeb, you're going to make me stinky rich. Whoo! Nasty. Take a shower, man. Smell too good. Smell too bad. Smell like you're getting rich. 10-year yield going under 3.5. This time is good. Yeah, I like this time. This time works really well for me. It's very easy for us to be consistent at this time. I want to nail it down and actually get it to like 9 o'clock instead of like 9:15 or 8:50. Like I want to nail it down at 9, but that would be my goal, is nail it down, and then towards the end of the stream at 9:30, 15 minutes before we wrap it out, we can catch that market open, see all of that interesting price action, and then we can go ahead and dive right on into the rest of our day. Now, let's see if Stream Deck here is going to cooperate. If not, I'm going to have to manually switch everything. So if you don't know, I have this nifty-difty little contraption here that lets me switch between the scenes, if you ever see me over here. And for some reason, it's malfunctioning. So not sure why it's doing that. So may just end up having to switch manually. That's no big deal. Let's go ahead and dive right back on into some technical analysis here on Bitcoin. All right. Let's see it. Crypto Mini Bike said, good morning, Jeb. Long time since I've seen a live show. I'm so glad you're here, man. It's so exciting to see all of your smiling faces here. I love to see it. All right, let's get started. Hey, before we get too deep into it, I do want to let you know that today's video is brought to you in part by Femex. Unless you have already signed up for Femex, you need to do this right as soon as the stream is over. You need to go to Femex with the link in the description box down below and sign up, because every once in a while we find a really great trading opportunity on this channel, and when you see a great trading opportunity, you want to have a great exchange to be able to use to take advantage of that great trading opportunity. So if you haven't already, make sure to sign up for Femex with the link in the description box down below. Not only are you going to be helping to support the channel, you are also going to be getting access to all kinds of different trading competitions, rewards programs, etc. whenever you sign up. So make sure you sign up. Blessings to you and your family. Hoping the bear market will provide blessings for me and my family struggling for a while. I'm sorry, Joseph. It is it is that is ultimately our vision with the channel. A little off topic, but I want to address this. That is ultimately the vision with everything that we do here at CryptoJeb. I want to help you achieve financial sovereignty. I know what it's like to live in a world that is governed by chaos. I have been through hell in my life. I have walked through some very serious trouble, very serious hard times. For example, last year, about a year ago, you guys know, we lost a son. He had a heart condition that went undetected because he was like one of just a few kids in the world that had it. It was horrible. And so when he passed away, I was very thankful that I had over $200,000 in cash in a bank account so I could completely take off for 8 weeks. And then when I came back, I could take off whenever I want. And still, I mean, like, you don't just heal from that kind of thing. I still have to step away sometimes because of grief, you know, or with my wife or with my kids or just with this, that, and the third, whatever it is. I'm very thankful that when life hit me like a freight train, I had cash there and I was prepared for it and I could take time off. That's what I want for you, not to go through what I've gone through, but when we go through awful things, I want you to be prepared for it so you can be present. I didn't have to worry about money. My wife and I, after it happened, the kids went to school and we went out to lunch every single day. We didn't even cook for like 2 months because the church brought us food, because we were in a great community and they loved on us, and because we had the financial resources to say, you know, we're just going to go out to eat. Screw it. Like, for real, just forget about it for a minute. That was so nice that we had that level of peace when everything else was not peaceful at all. At least I didn't have to worry about money. At least we didn't have to worry about money. I want you to be in the position where when life hits you upside the head, you don't have to worry about that because there are other things to worry about. What did Jesus say? He said, don't worry about what you shall eat or what you shall wear. Does not your Father in heaven know that you have need of these things? Is this not what the heathen stress over, more or less? We need to put ourselves in a position where we are not stressing about money because we need to stop buying all this flashy crap that we can't afford. If you can afford it, great, go for it. Have fun. But we need to put ourselves in a position that is financially sovereign so that when life happens, because it does, or when death happens, because it does, that our finances are not another source of stress for us. They should be a source of peace for us. And that is ultimately at the extreme, very core of what we do here. That is the core of what we do. So just a very big, just so you know, Joseph, that is literally the entire reason that this channel exists. It's the whole reason it exists is because of what you just said, that struggling for a while thing. I want to help. Crypto King in chat said, good morning, brother. Good morning to you as well. Man, there's so many awesome people in chat. I'm going to spend the whole stream over here reading chat instead of actually doing analysis. Let's jump back on into it. Bitcoin being here below the 200 weekly exponential moving average is a very serious sign that we're probably going to be dropping farther from here. So what I want to do is I want to actually show you what has happened every time in history that Bitcoin has dropped below the 200 weekly exponential moving average, and I think the results are going to be quite illuminating to you. The first time that we saw Bitcoin drop below the 200 weekly exponential moving average was right here, and you might think, oh, that's pretty close to the bottom. We saw the bottom the next week. True. That is accurate. But the bottom that took place was a 37% candle. We dropped 37% through the 200 weekly exponential moving average. Similarly, over here, when we dropped through the 200 weekly exponential moving average, it was near bottom, but we saw a 24% drop over the course of a month. Pretty large drop. Now, what's interesting is when you get over here to our more recent bear market. When you get over here to our more recent bear market, what you see is that Bitcoin dropped 35% within 7 days of breaking below the 200 weekly exponential moving average, which is basically where we are. We're essentially right here on the precipice of what could end up becoming a massive crash. You understand what I'm saying? And we drop back down to the 200 simple moving average. That's where we are. That's where we are. Okay, let's pause for a second. When I started this channel because I was broke as a joke and I wanted to take care of my family. And at the time, my family was just me and my dad. Within a couple of years, I got to the point where that was pretty easy. And for a while, I struggled to find motivation. because, well, I've made it. I don't care about having a Lamborghini. I don't care about having a penthouse. If I ever have one of those things, cool. I like nice things. I like having a nice suit. You know, it's nice. But it's not something that motivates me. I can't get out of bed in the morning just to make more money. It doesn't motivate me. And it took me a few years to really figure out what actually drives me. And what I eventually realized is that God did not put me in this chair to make me rich. I am already as rich as a man can be. I have a wife, I have 3 kids, and most importantly, I have the Lord Jesus Christ. What more could my greedy, sinful heart want? I'm already rich. So why would I even come to this channel? Why would I even make the content? Why would I even get out of bed? Because in the first 2 or 3 years, it was this, I've got to survive. Well, now surviving is comfortable. It's easy. So what's next? What's next is that one day I realized it clicked. When Bitcoin does this, oftentimes there are a lot of people that are caught very unprepared. They took out loans up here. They went into debt up here. They deployed their emergency fund up here, and then 2 months later, while Bitcoin's crashing and their emergency fund is down, that they put into Bitcoin, they lost their job. We have a lot of very hurtful, damaging narratives in Bitcoin of, oh, don't have any US dollars, have only Bitcoin. That's foolish. That's foolish. I'll debate anyone. Anyone from the crypto universe. I love all of them. I know everybody in the crypto space, almost every single influencer in the crypto space. If any of them would like to debate me on whether or not you should store some of your wealth in US dollars, I would be more than happy to have a debate anytime, any place, because they're wrong. If they say that, they're wrong. You need to have short-term liquidity that is not going to have the risk of being down 50%. Bitcoin can be treated as a long-term savings account. That's fine, but it should not be treated as short-term savings. You don't want your short-term savings dropping 50% in 3 months. Oh, but what about inflation? The US dollar is losing 6% value every year. Bitcoin can lose 60% value in 5 months. If your savings account is something that you're not going to touch for 10 years, sure, put it in Bitcoin. That's the best place to put it. But if you're going to need it at some point in the next 3 months, keep it in dollars. Eventually, I woke up and I realized, why do I even do what I do? What's even the point of me being here? Because for a long time, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to become a billionaire. Because why the hell not? I know I got what it takes. I know I'm really smart. I know I got some charisma. I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go make $1 billion and I'm going to give it away. And one day I realized God doesn't need my $1 billion because he's got everything. It was vanity. Oh, I'm going to become a billionaire and I'm going to give 10% a year to the church. As if that's impressive to God, who gave 100% of far more than $1 billion. So I thought to myself, I feel like Solomon here in Ecclesiastes, what's even the point? Why even show up? Why even go on the channel? It's kind of depressing, right? Why come? And eventually I realized, if I come on this channel for selfish gain, I am never going to be able to even get out of bed in the morning because I just don't care. I already have everything that I need. I am already sufficiently filled in Christ. So the only reason that I come on this channel, other than, yes, I want to provide for my family, is because I know that if you don't get this right, you're going to get hurt. And I am viciously protective. I was throwing my 5-month-old baby up in the air this morning. I said to her, because, you got all this Epstein file stuff going on. I said to her, and she's just laughing away. My little 5-month-old, she's just adorable. Her name's Serenity. She's absolutely cute. I'm just throwing her up in the air, and I said, you know what? If anybody ever tries to hurt you, little Serenity, I'm going to rip their fingernails out. I'm going to kill them. Yeah, if they try and hurt you, I'm just going to disembowel them. I'm a very protective person. The reason I come on this channel, it took me almost a decade to figure this out. The reason I come here every day is because if you don't get this right, you're going to get hurt. And I love you too much to watch that happen. So I just want to mention that as we talk about Bitcoin potentially dropping down here below 60,000, I need you to understand that I am acutely aware of the fact that it dropping down below 60,000 could seriously injure you financially. And my heart breaks that you might be in that position. And that's why I do what I do, because I want to teach you to not be in that position. Because I've been in that position where the market goes south. I remember in 2008 when my dad was in construction and that was his whole deal. He's a single father just trying to take care of his son, and the economy falls out from beneath him. And we lost almost everything. And I remember being 8 years old saying, Dad, I'm shaking my fist. I'm going to go up to that economy building and I'm going to give them what for, because I didn't even know what an economy was. I remember that. I remember the market crashing, destroying parts of my childhood, parts of my family, parts of my life. I remember that. It's visceral. I can go there. I can cry about it anytime I want. And I know that you might be in that position right now. And I want to help you prepare for it. So what do I mean by all that? Let's bring all this together, the analysis and what I just said. What I mean by that, because this is emotional stuff, man. What I mean by that is that you need to be prepared as soon as possible for a $58,000 Bitcoin and lower. Sometimes I forget to mention just how important that is, because I am prepared for that. I'm hoping for that, to be honest with you. Selfishly, I'm hoping for Bitcoin to go down to 58,000. But I've been in a position, I've been in a position to take advantage of this market, and I want you to be also. Okay, so Bitcoin is falling over here at the 930 open. So that's something to note here, right? But ultimately, what we're looking at here is a very serious possibility that we're going to see this kind of correction here to continue. Very real possibility. We've got our bearishness. It looks like we're about to break through this level of support here. We at this point more or less have a descending triangle pattern. So, you know, I don't say this with joy in the sense that I want you to get wrecked, because I don't. But you need to just be very careful, because a major correction could be taking place very soon. And if it does, I want you to be ready. That's the main thing. So let's do a quick recap. What does be ready mean? First of all, you need short-term emergency funds. Second of all, you need cash in your investment account that is not deployed. You should be consistently dollar cost averaging, but you should always maintain a cash buffer. So what that means for me is I like to maintain a buffer where when I put $1 in, it takes 3 to 12 months for that dollar to get invested. Basically, if I'm investing, let's say I'm investing $10,000 a month. If I'm investing $3,000 a month, whatever the number may be. If I'm investing a certain amount of money every month, I would like to be able to turn my faucet off, if you will. I'm no longer putting money into investments, and I continue making investments because I have that cash. And what that means is that if I stop quote unquote investing, I can continue quote unquote investing, because I can continue actually investing because I have a cash buffer there. And if you see Bitcoin drop down to $48,000, then I have cash in position and ready to accelerate. I can say, you know what, instead of saying this cash will run out in 12 months, I'm going to say this cash will run out in 3 months, because I'm going to quadruple my monthly input. And then in times where we are extremely high, I'm going to scale back down to that normal dollar cost averaging speed. And so that is what we do. And right now, by the way, with the bear market, we are maintaining at minimum a 1-year emergency fund. And the reason that I'm doing that is because we're in a bear market and my revenue is tied to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Newsflash, people aren't spending a lot of money on products right now because they're spending it all on Bitcoin. So we maintain a 1-year emergency fund in cash that is not for investment. That's what we do. I have a lot of cash right now. And I'm not saying that to brag, because I know a lot of people are not in that position. The reason I'm saying that is because I was not always in that position, and it was an extremely stressful place to be. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 3, when thou lie down, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. Let me just read that to you for a second. Look, I know that that a lot of people are going to be like, whatever. But for those of you that listen, you will understand why this is so important. Proverbs chapter 3. Absolutely beautiful. The Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth, by understanding hath he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. My son, let not them, wisdom, depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace unto thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. When you walk in wisdom, your sleep will be sweet. That's what it means. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh, for the Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken. How do you do that? You have faith in God, and you actually obey him. If you do what he says with money, you won't need to be afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked, neither of bear markets. I love you enough to tell you that if you are afraid of a bear market, that means you're doing something wrong. I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm not saying this to beat you down when you're already beaten down. But I am saying this to say that somewhere along the line, you did something wrong. And next time we want to do better so that we don't find ourselves in the same position. Again, I'm not speaking down to you. I've made every mistake under the sun. The only freaking reason that I know what I'm talking about is because I've done it all. I've done everything possible wrong. Maybe that's a prideful thing to say. I've done everything I possibly could wrong. And now I know I'm like, okay, well, I've tried it the wrong way every other time. So now this must be the right way to do it. Just doing what God said. So God has a lot to say on money. A lot of people don't talk about that, but he does. Okay, but let's talk about some long-term bullishness. Here's the bullish fact. If Bitcoin does exactly what it did in the last cycle and drops below the 300 weekly moving average, then that means that we would drop possibly about, 8%, 12% below the 300. If we drop 12% below the 300 moving average, that would put Bitcoin's bear market bottom at 45,000. 60,000 probably won't hold. 45K probably will hold. I've said that there's like a 0.1% chance that Bitcoin ever goes below $40,000 ever again. And I also want to mention this on the long-term time frame. A lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, over the last 4 years, if you bought Bitcoin, you're at a negative 2% return. This was on extreme greed. This is on extreme fear. My friend, my dearly beloved friend, that is what is known as an overside test. That is what is known as flipping resistance into support. That is what is known as bullish. All it is a long-term bullish pattern. That's all it is. So, at the end of the day, we need to stop stressing so much about Bitcoin's crash. And I understand if you're stressing about the position that you find yourself in, but we need to stop stressing so much about whether or not Bitcoin's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. If you're in a position where you're like, oh my goodness, if Bitcoin drops down to 45,000, I'm going bankrupt. I understand why you're freaking out right now. But as far as whether or not Bitcoin is in a position where we can have long-term conviction on the asset, of course, Bitcoin's just fine. It's been falling for 5 months straight. That's why I think that if Bitcoin does drop down towards the 58K range, that there will probably be a bounce. This will probably be the end of this impulse if we see it take place. And I really want to make sure I'm mentioning this. If we do see another movement to the downside, it's probably going to be, we're probably going to see a pattern somewhat like this. We'll probably see it be the end of the third wave, and you will see an actual bounce. This bounce has just been abysmal. It's just been useless. Like, there's nothing useful about this bounce whatsoever for a bull. But if we look at the daily chart, what we can see here is that if Bitcoin does drop below 60,000, then you have a downtrending level of support. RSI almost certainly will not go back down to 15. I mean, we'd have to drop down to like 30 for us to do that. That's not going to happen. So if you see that lower low on the price and the higher low on the RSI, then what you see happen is that that's where we could actually see that fourth wave bounce. And ideally, I think that when we do have an actual bounce, because I don't think this is the actual bounce, when you see the actual bounce will probably be a lot stronger than this, whatever this is, because it's later in the cycle. It's the fourth wave, not the second wave. So that's my input. I think that this impulse will probably be over soon, but you should expect it to drop us possibly as low as $50,000, with the fifth wave happening later on this year, most likely dropping us below $50,000, but probably not that far below $50,000. Rocket Race official saying that 45K will be the bottom. There is a lot of truth to that statement. That's probably an area where we're going to see it take place. Can you show us where the camera is on your stretched arm? Yes. So the camera is still. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. You got to get out of debt, man. I'm going to pull out a Dave Ramsey. You can't afford the stupid truck, man. You. Sell the truck. The camera's about 8 feet that way. Yeah. You were basically saying the bottom was approaching quickly. Yeah, more or less. Yes, I think that the bottom of the third wave is going to take place within the next month or so, and then the 5 wave will probably drop us into the 40s, and that's where the bottom will be. Good afternoon from Scotland. Life is all about helping others. Love to hear it. I actually hail from Scotland. From Scotland. Probably can't do a Scottish accent since it's been like 5 generations since we came over from Scotland, but let's see. Queen Finsov, you should post every second of this video. Let me check my stonks. You were helping me get rich, Jeb. My goal is to help you build peace and to help you build wealth in that order. If I can't get you to wealth, I at least want to get you to peace. Lockheed Martin, doing well. Amen. We are already rich in Christ, so that all other blessings we can use to help others. Amen. We must pump first, please. Can't compare what's happening at this point to any point in history. Ridiculous. Has to be a million factors that are not the same, not least of all the economy or liquidity setup. So you can compare, but the way that you compare when things are different is that you use them as weights and multipliers against what you're currently looking at. So in the last cycle, Bitcoin dropped. I think you'll like this. In the last cycle, Bitcoin dropped 77%. And as you've mentioned, we were in a significantly different environment. We had a different rate environment, we had a different liquidity environment, and we had a different stock market environment. The stock market, for example, was in a major capitulation here, right? We also saw in the central bank balance sheet that there was a much different environment. If it'll load, let's see if TradingView will load it for me. Doesn't look like it wants to. But we had a much different environment where we were seeing a great deal of quantitative tightening take place. None of those things are taking place right now. We are in fact seeing a bit of a bounce, not a bounce, I'm sorry, a injection of liquidity into the economy. Not enough to really do anything to Bitcoin, but we're certainly not seeing cutting. There are several $1 billion worth of injections taking place here and there from the Federal Reserve. We also see that interest rates are stable and lowering, whereas before they were stable, moving in the direction of increasing. So much different macroeconomic environment, much different stock market environment. And the reason that that comes into play here is because it most likely means that this bear market is going to be shallower. I think that Bitcoin could have a 60% bear market down here towards $48,000, and that would be a very healthy move. That would be understandably smaller than the previous bear market, partially because of strategy buying, partially because of the liquidity environment, partially because of the stock market not being in a crash, partially because of, at least at present, for the most part, geopolitical peace. You have to understand that the war in Ukraine started over here also, and that's a big part of the reason that the stock market sold off, is people thought, oh my gosh, first war in Europe in decades, World War III starting, and then they got absolutely, curb stomped, right? And so there is a very different environment here. Now, this all changes if war in Iran starts, the stock market takes a crash, we start seeing rate hikes, and we start seeing quantitative tightening. If all those things take place, then yeah, Bitcoin drops 70% down towards 30,000. If all those things don't take place and we continue the way we are right now, the bottom's probably between 60 and 65% off of all-time high, probably around like $50,000 to $44,000, somewhere in that range. So yes, that would be our take. By the way, guys, if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to sign up for Phemex. Best trading platform in the game. Make sure to sign up for Phemex with the link in the description box down below. If you see a great trade opportunity, Phemex is a great place to do it. So make sure to sign up for Phemex. They have some phenomenal advantages over here. They have very low fees. They have a lot of different tools that you can use to do your trading. Overall, a great exchange. Paul Lopez said the last drop went from 60 to 70K down to 8K, then hit a high over 120K. If we use that same trajectory, it should, in theory, hit the teens 20s, correct? The issue with that idea is that we did not actually see Bitcoin drop to 8,000. We saw Bitcoin drop to 16,000. So we're off by about a double there. Theoretically, if you were to say, okay, the bottom's just going to be twice as high, then the bottom will be at 32,000. That would be possible. It'd be a 74% drop, but I would think that would be unlikely. Our bottoms have not just gotten a little bit higher, they've gotten significantly higher every cycle. So this bottom was 1,800% higher. This bottom was 400% higher. I would expect this coming bottom to be at least 200% higher, which would put us up here towards, once again, like $48,000. So my theory is that either we just flush all the way out to $48,000 immediately and we just ditch the whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern, or Bitcoin bottoms out here somewhere around the high 50s, bounces and drops back down towards the 40s. But mid to high 40s, maybe even 50, I think that's more likely where the bottom's going to be. If the Clarity Act were to pass in the next several weeks, would that change your perspective about a 45 to 50K low? To some degree, the most important thing that you have to understand is that, unfortunately, we have not seen a great deal of bullishness coming from what the government has been doing in the Bitcoin and crypto space. Trump got involved. We have a lot more bullishness. I mean, have you seen all of the memes about the market was so much better when Gary Gensler was prosecuting Brad Garlinghouse, and they were going after XRP, and Operation Choke Point 2.0 was so good for Bitcoin. I'm not convinced that the Clarity Act is going to. I'm not absolutely convinced that the Clarity Act is going to send Bitcoin just straight to the moon. I do think it's an important act that we're going to talk about, especially if it gets passed. But I'm not necessarily convinced that it's just going to be okay, bear market's over now because of the Clarity Act. I don't think that's going to take place. All right, Jeb, can you take a look at buy places for Metaplanet and maybe Strategy? When should we look at the bottom there? So, Strategy is an interesting one because in the last cycle, Strategy broke clear through its 300, and we're not even through the 300 moving average yet. It's difficult to ascertain where Strategy is going to drop to because we don't see a lot of. There's not a lot of market history to go off of like there is on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a rich and long history of structure that we can look at. This is not a bad entry for Strategy because I think in the next bull market, Strategy is probably going to go over 1,000. I know a lot of people are going to crucify me for that, but I don't think Strategy is in a position where they're going to come anywhere near to get liquidated. They are quite strong. So a $124 entry is actually a pretty solid entry because just to get back to all-time high, which I think will happen, is a 4x. That said, the bottom on Strategy is probably a bit lower, the same way that Bitcoin's bottom is probably a bit lower than its prior all-time high. I would not be surprised to see Strategy visiting $100. I would say anything below $100 on Strategy would be a steal. But ultimately, Strategy is already so far down from all-time high that like anywhere in here is a decent entry. You may be down for a year or two, but anywhere in here is a pretty solid entry. Absolutely. As far as Metaplanet's already down so much from all-time high, literally just any time now. If you're going to buy it, again, it might drop another 50, 60, 70, 80%. The point is when a stock is already down 80% from all-time high, it gets really dangerous to call bottoms because at the end of the day, the bottom can always be lower since it's already dropped so much. It's difficult to call the bottom. The only reason that we're talking about where the bottom might be on Bitcoin is because we have a lot of very rich history of technical analysis to help us underpin those predictions, whereas on things like Strategy and Metaplanet, we don't necessarily have that. So ultimately, more so in these cases, what you want to be looking for is, do I like this price compared to the all-time high? And if so, buy it. If not, don't. I do like Metaplanet, though. Metaplanet and Strategy, I think, are solid positions. Where would Strategy liquidate? I highly doubt that Strategy would liquidate. If Strategy did liquidate, it would. I think we would probably need to go below the last bear market's bottom, because the thing you have to understand is that Strategy through Stretch is still actually acquiring money. They're still raising capital. At any point in time, if they feel like they're in danger, they can just raise the capital and not convert it to Bitcoin. I mean, so you got to think about Strategy as what it is. It's a company with revenues. When Stretch or many of the other preferreds go over $100, they sell stock to raise capital to buy Bitcoin. That's where they're getting the revenue. The stock goes over 100, they sell to keep the stock price under 100. Those effectively count as a form of revenues. Those revenues are then instantly and completely and totally converted into dollars. What that means is that Strategy must feel that they are in a powerful enough position to convert almost 100% of revenue into Bitcoin. And they're not putting much of any of it into cash. They have the dividends, and they built that cash account, which I'm glad they did. That made me feel a lot better about the stock. But if they were that concerned, all they would have to do is for a couple of months convert all that cash into convert all of those earnings, those proceeds of selling Stretch into cash, and pay back the investors over the next, well, what's 100 divided by 11.25? 9 years. So it doesn't appear to be very dangerous to me. If anything, it's actually a flywheel that's accelerating. So I'm not concerned about Strategy liquidating at all. They survived the last bear market. I've interviewed Michael Saylor. I've talked to him. We've had him here on the show. You can see our interview with him from a few years back. I don't personally believe that strategy is going to liquidate. I just don't see it. So that's not what I think is going to happen personally. Jeb, you're also forgetting that a lot of that is dilution of shares. Metaplanet isn't bound by NASDAQ delisting rules on the Nikkei. Yes, no, absolutely. The good news is strategy has stopped diluting the main stock, MSTR, which is great. I love that. I love that they've stopped they've stopped doing that because it becomes more of a scarce asset. So anyway, long story short, I don't think MSTR MicroStrategy is going to get liquidated. I just don't see it happening. Guys, by the way, quick reminder, make sure if you haven't already to sign up for FEMEX, and also make sure to check out our financial coaching. If you'd like to sit down with me and go over the principles of financial sovereignty and how to succeed with wealth, that's my dream. That's why God put me on this green earth, is to help people have peace and follow wisdom. So make sure that you sign up for financial coaching with me if you'd like my input on anything. And also make sure to sign up for the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy with the link in the description box down below. There are over 12 hours of content over here teaching you how to do technical analysis. This course has been taken by over 5,000 students, and they love it because it helps them to understand exactly how to analyze Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. So if you haven't already, make sure to sign up for the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy with the link in the description box down below. But we are going to go ahead and wrap it out. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good